Hey, Max Dinenberg here of Max Talks Movies, and today I will be breaking down the 2025 Academy Awards that took place last night. I'll go through my thoughts on the show itself, but also going through the winners, the losers, any major surprises, did it go as chalk, my overall predictions, and my record for this year, all of that fun stuff. So if you're new to the channel, guys, please hit that subscribe video and ring that bell for notifications. I do all things movies, TV, box office, out theater reactions, and rankings. So, like any one of those things, please consider subscribing and ring that bell for notifications. It is March, it's beginning of the month. Let's hit some big goals here in the month of March. And that's first starts by hitting that subscribe button and ringing that bell. Comment down below. What are your thoughts on the Oscars? First of all, did you enjoy the show? Did it go too long? What would you change about the award show moving forward? And were you happy and not happy with the winners of the night? Let me know. Respond to every single comment. Also, please, guys, hit that thumbs up video. That's how you support this channel. It helps the YouTube algorithm out. So, I have been covering award season this year for the first time here on my YouTube channel. I have been doing it in my personal life since the 2015 Oscars, really for the last 11 years of movies. I've been very heavily focused in award season. And this is the first time on my YouTube channel I got to promote it and cover it. And I will say this, I'll say this about the Oscars. Heading into the Oscars, there was much better buildup and anticipation to this Oscars than the actual show delivered. Heading into this year's Oscars, it felt like it was going to be a chaotic evening as it pertained to winners and losers, and it kind of just turned into the favorites kind of winning the majority of the major categories. And once you kind of realize where the show was heading, it turned out to be a very predictable chalk-like show, as they say. Now, before I get into the actual winners and losers of the show, I do want to give my general thoughts on the show itself and the technical difficulties that happened towards the end of the show, which I experienced, and other things. So for the show itself, I just think this show has just become one of the more mediocre, it's an okay show. They took a big swing this year in their eyes by not having any of the Best Song nominees performed. They started the show with Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo doing two songs. Grande did, I think they each did one song separately, and then they combined doing Defying Gravity to a big piece of Defying Gravity to begin the show. I thought that was actually a pretty solid way to open the show. I would have picked a song with more of them together in it than just like two separate songs and like kind of together. It was more felt like more Ariana Grande watching Cynthia Erivo after her first song. But so it was a very solid way to open the show, and especially with people who, out of all the movies nominated, it was probably one of the most seen movies of the night. So that was a good way to hook people in. But they did a couple things I wasn't a big fan of. So because they got rid of Best Original Song, I was expecting a much tighter show, a much shorter show. But this show basically went for 4 hours. It ended around 10:50 Eastern, and the show kicked off at 7. So I'm just going to call it that it was a 4-hour show. Originally on the cable networks, it was supposed to end around 10:30. But obviously, it went nearly 20 minutes over, which honestly is not bad for the Oscars by most of the years they do this. But for it's too long of an award show. And the bits, you thought when they would get rid of original song, they would give more time for people to speak and things like that. But once again, there were a billion bits on the show. Every single presenter has to have a bit that goes on for a long time. And some speeches did absolutely drag. Adrian Brody broke the record, had the longest speech in the history of the Oscars, over 5.5 minutes. It went for way too long. There were people, though, who went on for 50 seconds into a speech, and they were already getting played off. The ones in particular I stand out were the two Dune wins, where there's like three people who won for sound, and two people spoke, and the third person, the mic got cut off like 40 seconds into the speech. I do think when you watch an award show like this, sure, our bit's going to help make the show a lot more fun, but we're here to see people who have been working their life's work on a movie or on this career, and they finally win a grand prize of their work, and they're getting cut off 30 to 40 seconds in while other people get 2.5, 3 minutes to speak. And people are getting cut off because we need to do this bit and this performance. And I just thought it wasn't great put together. Barbara Broccoli and I forget the other person, Michael Wilson, they had the producers award. So they did a whole like Bond tribute, but I felt like they just did a Bond tribute a couple years ago, and they definitely did one when Skyfall came out because that was the 50th anniversary of Bond. So they kind of did like a 1.5 minute Bond tribute. It was like, okay, that was cool. Then they did like 3 performances of Bond songs, not sung by the original people who did the songs, which I thought was fine. As someone who loves Bond, if you know, Bond's right up there for one of my favorite franchises out there in my top three. And I was like, it's cool if they're doing this for like 90 seconds. It just took up like too much of the show. It turned into be like an 8 to 10 minute part of the show. Didn't feel that was necessary. I'm just not big of a fan of where they've gone with the memoriam, where obviously it is very hard to get through all of the people sadly who've passed away in the last year, and they definitely missed a couple people. Michelle Trachtenberg and Tony Todd were kind of the notables who weren't on the main show. They've always done this where if they miss someone, they give you like a QR code to see other people who've passed away. But they did do like a kind of like a minute, a 3 minute Morgan Freeman speech about Gene Hackman, and then moved into, I just didn't feel they gave equal time to the people who died. I know Gene Hackman just recently died, but I didn't feel like, in my opinion, the Morgan Freeman thing was necessary because they were about to honor Gene Hackman anyway in the memoriam. And by killing 3 or 4 minutes of Morgan Freeman talking about Gene Hackman, they have to kick off people who passed away just not to not have on the show. So I just didn't feel, and I'm not, this is not in poor taste. I think from a show construction perspective, if you're going to kill 3 more minutes on the memoriam, I'd rather see more people be recognized than an extra 5 minutes on Gene Hackman. That's no offense. Obviously, it's a huge loss for Gene Hackman, but I'm just how I feel about it. And then I just didn't feel the Quincy Jones element. They just did it at the Grammys, and I thought Quincy Jones had a bigger impact, in my opinion, on that industry than more than the Oscars. They just added a lot of different things into the show that I didn't feel, in my opinion, were the most necessary. If anything, with Quincy Jones, again, it could have been a nice tribute. I just think that part of it also just took way too long. And again, people who want to watch the Oscars are not just here for bits. They're mostly here to see people win awards, walk up, and talk. That is the award show. But the Oscars continue to struggle to build a good show. And I do think it is a problem. But again, I have kind of gotten used to this. Everyone like me yells this to on top of mountains for years now on how to change the Oscars from a show format perspective. They didn't do scenes for supporting, but they did for the lead performances. There was like a wonky show in a show where everyone just wants to watch people go up there and have the right amount of time to talk about a win. So that's my thoughts on the actual show. Let's get into the winners and the losers of Oscars night. And the biggest winner of the night was not shockingly Anora, the movie that got a lot of momentum post Golden Globes, really starting with Critics' Choice, PGA, DGA, and WGA that weekend for them. Once they won that, they became the kind of the front runners for Best Picture. And it led to Sean Baker winning the most Oscars in one night for one movie in the history of the Oscars, where multiple people have won 3 times for one. The most recent of that was Bong Joon-ho for Parasite, where he won for screenplay, directing, and for picture. Now, the movie did win International Feature. A lot of people are getting this confused online. Bong Joon-ho and Parasite won Best International Feature, but that award goes to the country, not the director. So that does not count for an Oscar for Bong Joon-ho. So technically, he on the night at the show had 4 Oscars, but as it pertains to stats and things, he, as a career, he has 3 for that film. So Sean Baker won for editing, screenplay, directing, and the film won for Best Picture. So Anora became the big winner. I think we've had a lot worse Best Picture winners than Anora. Anora is in my top 10 of the year. I love the movie. Again, I am still on the very, feels like minority. I believe The Brutalist was the right pick, in my opinion, to win Best Picture this year. But again, it looked like the little AI controversy, whatever it is, and it being nearly 3.5 hours, it definitely lost a lot of momentum, and Anora turned to gain all the momentum. And that is what happened. The big wide open category of the night was Best Actress. It seemed like it was like a three-person race between Fernanda Torres, Demi Moore, and Mikey Madison. They all three have won multiple awards throughout awards season, but Mikey Madison kind of put the dagger on the night on everyone's chances, not named Anora, by winning Best Actress. Demi Moore, who knows? Again, that's why sometimes they like to give the people Oscars to people who have been in the industry for a long time, because they're not sure if they'll ever come back. And you see with someone of Mikey Madison's young talent, she will be back. But they ended up giving it to Mikey Madison. Clearly, the Academy adored Anora. And once Sean Baker won director, that was kind of already a slam dunk that win for picture. But again, didn't mean it was a slam dunk for her to win actress. But again, I agree with the opinion that if the movie wins all of these awards and then she isn't a part of that, that I would think would be a mistake. So the positive for me on Anora is that if they just won picture, screenplay, and all these other awards, and then the one person, one of the major focal points of the movie, literally the whole movie, did not win, that would not make a lot of sense. So I think Mikey winning did make sense. She absolutely deserved it. Best actor went to Adrien Brody. Not a shocker. He was the favorite. Again, everyone was trying to jump off the Adrien Brody bandwagoner train after Timothée Chalamet won at SAG. But other than SAG, Brody won every single major award throughout awards season. It's his second Oscar, and it's the second longest, in between years of winning an Oscar. Anthony Hopkins had a 30-plus year drought before Silence of the Lambs and The Father. This was, I think, a 21-year gap between The Pianist and The Brutalist wins for Adrien Brody. Again, his speech went on for way too long. 5.5 minutes is just ridiculous for a speech. And it was a lot of just nothing for the majority of the speech. There were some good things at the end of his speech that I liked, but the whole first half of it was not very strong. But again, I'm happy. For me, he was the best performance out of all of the winners and out of all the performances nominated. In my opinion, he had the strongest performance of the year. I never hopped off the Adrien Brody. I got too much on the Brutalist bandwagon. I still stand by this. I think Sean Baker had the best speech of the night for his best director win, where he talked about, and as someone who preaches to everyone I know and here on YouTube how much the movie theater means to me and seeing movies in theaters means to me, it was really cool to see someone of Sean Baker's caliber do a whole speech about how important it is to get people in the theaters, take your family to the theaters. Now, here's what I will say about the speech, though. It meant very well, and I agree that everyone does need to be back in theaters, and going to see these movies on the biggest screen possible is the best way to see these movies. I agree with that. But I think the biggest problem there's a 50-50 problem with the movie theater exhibition at the moment. 50 is on us, audience, people in the world who are just choosing not to go out anymore and watch everything on streaming or direct to video. I agree with that. The other part of it is on the movie theaters, which he did not really bring up that much, but movie theaters are just doing a horrible job making it a very luxurious experience. Movie theaters are expensive. Going to the movies now is just quite expensive. No matter where you are in the country, it's just pretty damn expensive. And a lot of these theaters are just not giving the best experiences to people. Everyone's on their phones. There can be dirty stuff around, chairs not working if they're not, lounging back or not. And I think that's the other half. I think us as audience members have to get better at wanting to see movies in theaters, but also the movie theaters themselves also have to dramatically improve in order for things to go. But I was really happy with Sean Baker's speech. I still think Brady Corbet deserved to win Best Director for The Brutalist. It was the best directed movie for me of the nominees. I still think Denis Villeneuve should have been nominated, and I still think Edward Berger should have been nominated. But I thought the winner should have been Brady Corbet, but after even Sean Baker won for editing, which felt like a conclave win, went to Sean Baker, you kind of got a sense that it was going to be Anora's night. The supporting winners went to complete chalk as usual. Kieran Culkin won for supporting actor as usual, but throughout award season. Kieran Culkin had another great speech. when he won for Real Pain. And then Zoe Saldana got the lone major win of the night for Amelia Perez. And she gave a very good speech. Very happy for Zoe Saldana, someone who's been one of the most underappreciated actors of the last 2 decades. I've brought this up multiple times about here, but she just had no major threats in award season. And with all the controversy surviving, Carlos Sofia Gascon affected the movie. Luckily, it had no effect on the quality of work that she put in the movie. Very well-deserved Oscar for her. Another upset on the night was Flow winning for Best Animated. It felt like Flow had a shot, but did feel like Wild Robot was a pretty strong favorite. But for the second straight year, an international animated film won Best Animated Film. So that is a very cool win for Flow. And also, I'm Still Here, while it didn't win Actress or Picture, did get the win in Best International Feature. I do think Amelia Perez's controversies really hurt it in that category in particular, opening the door for, we got Latvia's first win ever at the Oscars and Brazil's first ever win at the Oscars. Also, Conclave did get a major win, which was Adapted Screenplay. That was one of the more uncompetitive categories on the night. It was a kind of a slam dunk that Conclave was going to win. Brutalist did get a couple wins. That was for cinematography and score. Amelia Perez also got a win for Best Song, which also was one of the worst speeches of the night. Dune Part 2 had 2 wins. It was for visual effects and for sound. And I was really happy to see all of the people. You tell how much Denis Villeneuve meant and how many people were not happy that Denis Villeneuve did not get a Best Director nominee, as all of the people who won for Dune had long speeches about how much Denis Villeneuve means to Hollywood and means to them, which was very cool. Wicked also had a win for Best Production Design on the night. The Substance, not shockingly, got its lone win for Best Makeup and Hairstyling. Wicked also won for Costume Design, the first ever Black costume designer ever to win an Oscar. Can't believe it's taken this long for that to happen, but that happened. Those are all the awards. As I said, the build-up to this award show was one of the best as it pertains to chaotic of ever for the Oscars. It felt like it was a very wide-open Oscars. But honestly, once Sean Baker won Best Editing, it kind of felt like the night was going to be Anora's night. He was on upset watch. It felt like Conclave was the favorite throughout award season for editing. But once Sean Baker won that, it felt like Anora had their night. And Anora did. Now, again, I think when movies sweep like this, for me, they have to be all-time movies. Like, again, Oppenheimer, for me, is one of the best movies of the last decade. Parasite is one of the best movies of the last 2 decades. Do I think Anora is on that level? No. But are there movies that have been, in my opinion, undeserving of Best Picture over the last decade? Yes. And I don't think Anora will fit in that category. I think Anora is a very worthy Best Picture winner. Was it my pick? Who I would have picked? No, but it is the winner, and I think Conclave would have really pissed me off if they won. So I think Anora winning makes all the sense in the world. It's a movie that I love. It was in my top 10 of the year. What an awards year to cover! Chaos, controversies, upsets. It had all of it. But we had our usual chalk-filled award show with a lot of swings and misses for the Academy, who continue to mess up on how to make a pretty good award show. Also, to end on this note, I did watch this award show on Hulu, and I was one of the people, as many of you know, if you watch the award show on Hulu, the only place to stream the Oscar, if you're not watching on ABC, was to stream it on Hulu. And I was streaming it on Hulu, and yes, like everyone else, my feed cut off before the last 2 awards of the night were announced. So we had to get out. I was watching with my parents. We got our iPad logged in because I have cable to ABC, and we got to watch the last 2 awards. But they were making a big deal all week about how Hulu is the place to watch the Oscars, and then they cut off the stream with the 2 biggest, most wide open awards of the night left, which were Actress and Picture. So that was a big swing and a miss. Netflix has not had a problem with that with SAG. Netflix, I'm not saying, had a meeting with the Academy this week to possibly be the next team to stream the Oscars. We shall see, but Hulu, they got a lot of bad publicity, rightfully so. Again, people are saying, well, it was supposed to end at 10:30, but again, Hulu's a streaming service. They don't have the cable rights. They can keep streaming it. That was a big mess up on their end, and a lot of people were not happy as the last two awards were not shown for them. So that's my thoughts on this crazy awards season. Thanks for joining me. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.